Is everybody here? Great. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. It's my distinct pleasure to thank you all for being here tonight for this really special event. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jennifer Chrysler. I am chair of the Fenway board, and I am starting my second year as chair and my fifth year on the board. So it's really great to have you all here. I think it's really important to know that the board is a reflection of the community that Fenway serves, and that more than 50% of the board are patients. And so our job as a board is a really important one in many ways, right? We reflect the community that we serve. We're here to listen to what it is that people want and need from Fenway Health. But there are really two things that we do that are the most critical for the organization. One of those is to ensure that we are living our mission and our vision every single day and helping leadership do that work through things like strategic plans. And then the second thing that we do is we hire and we work with and support the leader of Fenway Health. And my job tonight is actually to introduce that person to all of you, who I think probably many of you already know and have spent time with. But tonight is really the culmination of bringing together those two most important functions for the board, right? Holding fast to our mission and our vision, making sure that the board is in alignment and supportive of the strategic plan, and then bringing a leader who can help us do that. And this year has been really transformative for Fenway, and that is because of our CEO, Jordina Shanks. We are finally on solid financial footing. We are growing new patients. We are building bridges and bringing people back to Fenway and expanding those who we are serving and welcoming them into this building and beyond. And we've been doing it in the extraordinary circumstances that is the country today. And that is not an easy thing to do. And I believe that it is because of Jordina and her leadership team that we are where we are today. I feel really proud of the fact that I co-chaired the search committee that found Jordina. Not gonna lie. And therefore, I am really delighted to introduce you to her and to let her really take the stage tonight. So, Jordina.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jen. It was very, very, very kind of you. Good evening, everyone here in the room with us and online. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy days to spend with us learning where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. I want to start by thanking our patients, our elected leaders who are with us, our longtime and new supporters, our community partners, and members of our incredible team in the room and who are online. I want you to know that your presence means the world to us. This evening is about more than reflection. It's about recognizing how far we've come, and more importantly, where we're going. Together, we'll take an honest look at the challenges we've faced, celebrate the progress we've made, and share a bold vision for our future for Fenway Health. From our earliest days, Fenway has stood as a beacon of hope, resilience, and equity. Born in a time of profound social upheaval, we have never wavered from our mission: to care for those often left behind. Through the AIDS crisis, the fight for LGBTQIA+ rights, public health emergencies, and persistent systemic inequities, Fenway has not only endured, we have led. Our reach extends far beyond Boston. Through research, education, advocacy, and compassionate care, we've shaped policy, saved lives, and inspired change across the nation and around the world. We are the hub of a global ecosystem committed to caring for the LGBTQIA+ community and ending the HIV epidemic. And through every single challenge, we've emerged stronger because our foundation is built on community, courage, and an unshakable belief that healthcare is a human right. This past year was no exception. As Jen mentioned, amidst persistent financial challenges, market pressures, and organizational change, we continued a journey of transformation, focusing on stabilizing the organization and rebuilding trust with our people and the community. I'm super proud to report, as Jen mentioned, that we are on solid financial footing for the first time in 4 years. Yes, thank you. There's more. Patient experience has significantly improved. People are spreading the word. People are coming back to Fenway. We are welcoming new patients when many other organizations are not, and we are growing. We have reached our first union contract, a milestone that strengthens our unity and positions us for sustainable growth. My first year as CEO has been one of listening and learning. We took a hard and honest look at where we are and where we must go. We held listening sessions with community partners, reviewed data, engaged patients and staff, reflected on what it means to be a medical home, a trusted partner, and a true champion for equity. And we heard you clearly and candidly. Concerns about our identity, challenges with inclusivity, accessibility, and quality, questions about our future, and the impact of provider turnover, real and deeply felt. From that reflection came not only new direction, but a renewed sense of purpose, one that honors our legacy and builds upon it to meet the changing needs of our community. So today, I am super excited to unveil a revised mission statement, a new vision statement, and a set of core values that will guide us forward. Next slide, please. Our mission, rooted in the LGBTQIA+ community and racial justice, Fenway Health provides and advocates for compassionate, equitable healthcare, research, and education, empowering people from all walks of life to live, love, and thrive freely. These words are more than a mission. It's our promise. It's our promise to meet you where you are, to deliver not just care, but dignity, and to fight for a system that honors every individual, regardless of identity, income, or zip code. Our vision, a world where everyone can lead fulfilling, healthier lives with the resources and care needed to achieve health equity for all. This is the future we're working towards, where when you access care, you will experience accessibility, respect, and responsiveness, where you can bring your whole self and feel seen, supported, and celebrated, where no one is left behind. To our donors, your support makes this happen. Our mission and vision guide where we're going, but our core values define how we get there. They are the heart of our culture, the principles that shape our decisions, and the commitments we make to one another each and every day. So I'd like to take a moment to share with you what each of these values mean to us. At Fenway, community is not just a word, it's our foundation. We foster deep, meaningful connections with each other, with our patients, and with our community partners, because we know that we are stronger together. We create brave spaces where people can come as they are, be heard, be seen, and be supported. Whether it's in a clinic room, a community meeting, a board meeting, or a moment of advocacy, we show up for one another because healing happens in connection. We are not afraid of asking hard questions or trying new things. Innovation is in our DNA. It drives us to challenge the status quo, to find better ways to serve, and to meet the evolving needs of our communities. Whether it's developing new models of care, advancing research, or reimagining how we deliver services, we are committed to bold, creative solutions that move us and the field forward. And justice. Justice is the lens through which we see our work. We believe that every person, regardless of who they are, where they come from, or who they love, deserves the same rights, the same access to care and power, and the same opportunity to live life with dignity and choice. Justice means fighting for equity, dismantling barriers, and building systems that uplift rather than exclude. It's not just a value, it's a call to action. Together, these values, community, innovation, and justice, are more than ideals. They are the way we live our mission every day. They are how we show up for our patients, our colleagues, and the communities. And they are how we build a future where everyone can thrive. So with our newly renewed mission and vision as our foundation and our values to guide us, we now focus on 3 strategic priorities. 1, to be a provider of choice. We will be a national leader in delivering exceptional, culturally responsive, stigma-free care and preventative services that close health gaps for all. This means protecting care for each and every one of you and ensuring every patient feels seen, respected, and supported, especially the most vulnerable. It means removing barriers that prevent people from accessing care they deserve and investing in innovative solutions to bring care into the community where people live, work, and play. Number 2, to be an employer of choice. We are committed to creating a workplace where every team member feels valued, supported, and empowered to grow. We will foster a culture of inclusion, collaboration, and excellence, because when our people thrive, we know our mission will thrive. And third, organizational sustainability. We will strengthen our infrastructure, diversify our revenue, and meet the moment with bold advocacy, so we can continue to serve our community with integrity and impact for generations to come. So as we look to the future, during a time when everything we stand for and everyone we care for is under relentless attack, we carry forward our legacy of resilience, grit, and resolve, and our reliance on community to propel us forward. Not just to survive these difficult times, but to transform them into opportunities for justice, healing, and hope. I want to take a moment to thank the many voices that shape this process. Our team, our staff and clinicians who bring heart and excellence to their work each and every day. And to our patients who trust us with their lives and have helped to shape our services. And to our partners, our elected leaders, our donors and board members who support us, fight with us, and never stop pushing us to do better. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. But today isn't the finish line, it's the starting point. Today we invite you, next slide please, to join us, not just in celebrating this moment, but in bringing our mission and plan to life. We ask you to please read the plan. Share your thoughts and ideas and hold us accountable. And most of all, walk alongside of us. If you've left, for whatever reason, we invite you to come back. Now would be a really good time. At times of cruel and oppressive policy shifts, it is more important than ever to protect the institutions whose missions align with your values. Fenway Health is an institution, one that is critical to preserve. You can help us do that by donating your time, your talent, and your treasure. Together, we are building a stronger, more inclusive Fenway Health, one that honors our past, meets the moment, and boldly shapes the future. One where everyone, not just some, has the opportunity to be seen, supported, and thrive. Thank you. Now, this is the super exciting part. I get to introduce you all to a member of our leadership team who needs no introduction, a passionate advocate for racial equity, LGBTQIA+ rights, and community healing. As Director of Racial Equity, Social Justice, and Community Engagement here at Fenway Health, and President of Boston Pride for the People, she brings wisdom, heart, and deep commitment to building inclusive, justice-centered spaces. Please join me in welcoming Adriana Boulin.
Thank you.
Oh, you have your thing.
I do.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here with you. Oh my goodness, faces, faces. I love this. And y'all online, I know you can't see, I can't see you, but know, like, I'm feeling your presence. And thank you for being here with us. And before we dive in, so what we're about to get into is I love gardening, I love nature, and so I'm gonna bring that into how I talk about equity and anti-racism and a lot of important words that are at the foundation of the work and what we do. And so I want you to think about a plant, whether it's a flower or an herb or a vegetable, just a plant. You can choose one. You don't have to, but if you want to play along as I'm describing things, I invite you to. And once you have it, think about the colors that it expresses and its leaves and its unique patterns, and stick with it. And in that, every individual or human in this analogy is a flower. And the space that we share, whether it's this room or this city, the state, the country, the world, is a garden. And the people and places and things that tend to what we need to be and thrive are our gardeners. So those are all the pieces in the story. Y'all got it? Okay. So the first word up here is diversity. And so when we think about the different plants in this room, those of you online, when we think about that variety, diversity is difference. It's a variety of differences, and it's a variety of differences that's enriching. It's what makes humanity beautiful. It's what makes a garden beautiful. So diversity is difference, a variety of plants. Race, as we're thinking about our flowers, are the different colors that express on flowers. That is the simple difference, just different colors, the different races that we see on our skin. Whereas racism is where a difference about us is used to separate us, is used to separate humanity. Our differences are so beautiful and they enrich us, but racism is when it's used to separate us and used to offer benefits and advantages to some and disadvantages and barriers to others. And anti-racism is a moment when the gardener, and remember, a gardener is that person, place, or thing that tends to what we need to thrive. Anti-racism is when the gardener realizes, these plants are not thriving, not because of the plants that they are, but because where they were planted. And they were planted where they are because of the color that they are. So I noticed these red flowers over here are planted in areas where there's rocks or where there's not enough sunlight for them or not enough water. So anti-racism is both the recognition and the action to change. So I noticed that these plants are planted in an area where it's rocky, and so I'm going to put some rich soil there. Or I've noticed they're planted somewhere where they're not getting the light that they need, so I'm going to make way for more sunlight or water. So anti-racism is the work of recognizing the difference that is being used to separate all the flowers' experiences and doing something to change that difference. And the ability as a gardener, the person, place, or thing that tends to the needs, what we need to thrive, the ability to recognize that is equity. It's recognizing plants need all different things. Have you all ever taken care of different plants at the same time? Like I've taken care of a succulent and like a mint plant and tomato and a sunflower, and I try and get away with doing the same thing. Like I'll just water the same thing, I'll put them all in the same place, and I quickly see that ain't gonna work. This one's dying over here, and it's just, and so what I've found joy in is really understanding each plant. You know, they might be in different places in my house. Some might be outside, some might be inside. I might have to actually talk to some. I talk to my plants. I think it actually does something for some. They're looking for my voice in the morning. So equity is really recognizing that each plant needs something different. It's both recognizing that and honoring that and actually acting on that holistic, customized experience that each plant needs to thrive. Racial equity is that recognition of needing to create a state where, regardless of a plant's race or color, that they are able to thrive. And getting to that point is prioritizing the plants that have been neglected, the plants that have been in rocky soil, that haven't gotten enough sun, and it's prioritizing those neglected plants. And you know, in our country, that may look like prioritizing communities like Black and brown communities or communities at different intersections that have been neglected from getting exactly what they need. That's the racial equity work. That's enter difference, enrich difference here, equity. That is racial equity, and that is equity overall for the different experiences we have. And racial justice is completely redesigning the system, because the way the system exists right now, the garden is the system, the way it's built right now, everybody is not getting what they need. And every plant does not need the same thing. So how do you design a system where the plants are able to get what they need? It might not be the same thing, but you're able to sustain a garden, you're able to sustain the system where everyone can get what they need. The gardener can tend to each of those individuals' needs in a sustainable way, a way that will sustain for generations. And that's the important work that community health centers were created to do. And before we dive into community health centers, I want to give a little bit more historical context. Next slide, please. There's a lot of text on here. You can just look at the pictures or you can check out the text, but I'll describe what's in the text. So the soil of this garden is uneven. There are some areas where they're getting the sun they need, they're getting the soil they need, sunlight, and other areas where that's not the case. And that wasn't always the case. There were gardeners. So this garden right here, this is the United States of America, just so you all understand the context. This is the United States of America. And right now the land is uneven, and it wasn't always uneven. We had gardeners come to this land, and read gardeners as European colonizers came to this land with enslaved people, with enslaved flowers from other gardens, and settled on this land that belonged to native and indigenous flowers, and changed the rules, access to resources, and created a system that produced these uneven outcomes. And these walls represent systems of oppression. So the system of oppression where we use our differences against us, where we use what is different about us to separate our humanity, to create different experiences for each of us. That is what this wall is. So you see the wall for the plants here, they're not receiving what they need. You know, there's some plants over here that are thriving. And over time, you know, the layout has changed. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed in the late 1800s. The Civil Rights Act was signed in the 1960s. So the layout changed, but we still continue to see disproportionate impacts, right? 1 in 2 Black men who have sex with men, if we continue in the way that we are going right now, 1 in 2 Black men who have sex with men will contract HIV in their lifetime. Black women are 50% of new HIV infections. These are all in the United States, despite Black people being 13% of the population. So the layout has changed. We have Civil Rights Acts. There are new initiatives in place, and we are still seeing disproportionate outcomes and impacts. And that's why we need to still continue to do this work. And so that's why in the 1960s, we had new seeds that were planted. Jack Geiger and others came together and created community health centers. And they were planted during the civil rights and anti-poverty movements. And it was specifically to create a garden within these gardens. This is the United States, and you know, there are these disproportionate impacts that are happening. Community health centers were created to correct for that and heal community in that. And one of the first community health centers in Boston's Columbia Point was created for this, to really support individuals that were denied good health care, that were low income, that were communities of color. And today, Fenway continues that legacy of doing what we were always built to do, and pulling up the weeds of racism that still exist. They are still rooted. They are so deep into the foundation of this country that we call the United States of America. And it's what we were built to do and are going to continue doing as Fenway Health, to pull up the weeds of racism and enrich the soil with equity and create a space where every plant can grow strong, vibrant, and free. You know, in the previous slide that Jordanina shared, it was an invitation to help us grow. We want to grow. We're planting seeds. We want to learn what seeds we need to plant, what you need, how to plant them. We want to share what we're planting. And that goes on to the last slide, if you'll share. I'll share a bit of what we're planting, and then colleagues that will follow me will continue to share. These are just some of the things that we're planting, and as we go on throughout the night, you'll hear more and more about what is growing in the Garden of Fenway. And you'll hear, you know, what you can plant, what seeds exist for you, what space there is for you to grow. And so one of the things that we've been doing, all of our staff and board members participate in unconscious bias training, really thinking about what are our biases, what assumptions do we make that prevent us from engaging with people in the world in fair ways that produce fair outcomes. So all of our staff and board members and new staff members take that cultural humility training. Cultural humility is this idea of we don't know every culture, every individual's experience. And to know that, we'd have to meet everybody on this planet. And I don't know anyone that has met every single person on this planet. So it's really moving with this spirit of openness and always being able to learn and to teach and to share and respectfully connect with each other across differences. And we've discussed already our interest in really building trust with the community and our trustworthiness and sharing power and engaging meaningfully and connecting on our shared goals. And there's so much opportunity to do that at Fenway, in our community, with you and together. And this is an expression of that. And I look forward to my colleagues that will follow, that will share more about what is growing in our garden and how you can join us in that growth. Thank you.
Can you give your mic to Will? Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much, Adriana. The next member of our leadership team, who I am absolutely thrilled for you all to hear from, is our new Chief Medical Officer. Okay. With a rich background in FQHC leadership, global health, and community-driven care, he has transformed access to HIV prevention, gender-affirming services, and substance use treatment across underserved populations. He has built pioneering centers for sexual and gender minority health, launched state-first same-day PrEP programs, and led refugee health initiatives in Maryland. A family medicine physician trained at Brown, he spent nearly a decade in Haiti and Laos, advancing public health programs focused on HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, nutrition, and health systems training. His work reflects a lifelong commitment to advancing equity in healthcare through compassion, cultural humility, and innovation. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Will Giordano Perez.
Thank you. Oh, that's so sweet. Hi, everyone. Okay, I've got notes. That way I don't forget all the things that I want to say today. So thank you, Jordina, for that introduction. And Adriana, I just absolutely love that. So thank you so much for kicking that off, too, because I think that's gonna lead really nicely into what I want to talk about tonight. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here as we launch this next chapter in Fenway Health's story. For those who I haven't had the chance to meet yet, as Jordina said, I'm Will Giordano Perez. I'm a family medicine doc by training. I trained out at Brown in my residency out in Portland, Oregon. I'm also assistant clinical professor over at the Brown Medical School in the School of Public Health. I joined Fenway about 4 months ago now, and I've been doing this work for a minute, about 15 years in federally qualified health centers. In fact, I've never worked in a private practice or a community health center that wasn't a federally qualified health center. And before that, I was doing global health, primarily in Haiti and Laos. I'm a doctor, yes, but also a gay man, born into poverty to a mom who was 14 years old when she had me. I've lost family members to overdose, to suicide, to AIDS. So I know what it means to carry grief and purpose at the same time. I also know what it feels like to be let down by systems. One of the patients who changed my life forever was a young boy who I cared for my intern year of residency. And he was born with a rare genetic condition where he had no arms and no legs. And he came to me in clinic because he was being raped repeatedly by his caregiver. And he wanted to know if there was a way, he had this significant fear of HIV in particular, and wanted to know if there was a way to prevent himself from getting HIV. And this was about 6 months before PrEP came out. When PrEP did come out, and that was Truvada, when it was FDA approved, we got him on it right away. Getting him on PrEP and protecting him the only way that our systems really allowed me to do so really sparked an interest for me to shift from doing primarily global health work to doing global as local health with a real focus on LGBTQI healthcare. And so that's what brought me to Fenway. And that's what drives the vision I want to share with you tonight. We've got some slides, but I'm not really good at running through slides, so we can kind of just move them if you want, Chris, as we go. But I want to first talk about why Fenway is different, because it really is what brought me here. Right before here, I was actually in DC helping a group of federally qualified health centers kind of regrow, rebuild trust, and rebuild teams. And that was a large refugee and asylee health assessment program. It was the largest one in DC, Maryland, Virginia area, which now under our current administration has essentially been shut down. But we were bringing in about 6,000 new refugees and asylees into the DMV area every year, a large percentage who were living with HIV/AIDS, who had gone without treatment, and so we were diagnosing with new onset of AIDS. But I want to say why Fenway is where I want to be right now. So Fenway, for me, and I think most of us would agree, is unlike other FQHCs. Fenway is unlike other LGBTQIA health organizations. Right? Patients from 41 states around the country and nearly every zip code in this state access us for healthcare services. And they don't do so because they want to, they do so because they need to, because we are a place where we have expert care in this field. We care for patients across every walk of life. We do prenatal care, primary care, psychiatric care, behavioral health care, optometry, dental, alternative insemination, substance use disorder treatment, gender affirming care, HIV treatment, hepatitis C treatment. The list just keeps on going on. And we center those, by providing that care, we center those who are often pushed to the furthest of the margins. And those are people living with HIV, those are people who inject drugs, Those are persons who are unhoused. Those are trans and non-binary individuals. Those are others navigating really complex and overly stigmatized conditions. But we're also, which you're going to hear about later, and you probably already know, like absolute global leaders in research and education. Fenway's training programs are among the most accessed and utilized LGBTQIA+ health training programs in the world, right? In the world. We have helped shape what it means to provide this kind of amazing healthcare. And we've helped others to do the same. So what's the challenge? Why we're even talking about this right now? Why we have to come up with a new strategic plan every few years, other than we're required to. But it's to adapt and be flexible and pivot when needed to. So the challenge is that we're facing enormous pressure, externally, but also internally. Legislation, executive orders, and our patients are being threatened. Our ability to serve them is being threatened. Clinician burnout is about as high as I have ever seen it. And many of the people who need us most cannot access us. Our physical clinic, the clinic you're in right now, these walls were built to protect, to quite literally protect. These walls have created safety, these walls have created community, have created a sanctuary of sorts. But now these same walls, as beautiful and sacred as they are also keeping people out, keeping the people who we need to reach out. And so now I'm going to talk to you about an idea called Fenway without walls. So this is the heart of our vision right now, is a Fenway without walls. It's a structural shift, and it's one that challenges us to rethink how, where, and for whom we provide healthcare. And so we're starting with 3 big initiatives. The first one is redesigning our entire medical leadership structure. And so we're restructuring our leadership to better support the work that really matters right now, which is direct care, innovative care models, and team-based collaboration. That may not be actually what you're seeing on the screen, though. Okay. We're taking some of our leadership positions and we're elevating them. We're streamlining some oversight. We're building in leadership that's focused on clinician wellness, some leadership that's focused specifically on virtual care, but also on access innovation. The second thing we're doing is we're expanding walk-in and outreach access. So we're embedding public health, primarily our harm reduction work and our STI testing and treatment work, in Greater Fenway. Walk-in care will not be siloed anymore. Instead, it's going to be a part of our open access model at Fenway. We're also expanding opportunities for our clinicians themselves to do home visits and joint outreach events, caring for patients wherever they are, whether that be on the street or in shelters or in their own homes. The third thing we're doing is we're launching something called a virtualist clinic. This is building a virtual first model of care. So it's going to be expansion of telehealth services and telehealth-based primary care panels, after hours and weekend appointment availability that can be self-scheduled by patients themselves, on-call triage that can be seamlessly transitioned into a virtual care visit, but also expanded telehealth visits to get more folks on PrEP who need PrEP, more folks HIV treatment who need HIV treatment and can't access us physically, more folks who need gender-affirming care, who need substance use disorder treatment, and who need mental health care. So I'm going to talk about these 2 patient stories that really stood out to me over the last couple of months. And I've changed the names, okay? So I'm like, my husband, he's like, are you really going to give the real names? I'm like, no. The first story is about a guy named Micah. A few weeks ago, one of our new patients, Micah, he's a 23-year-old trans man who just moved here from out of state. He walked into our sexual health clinic, and our sexual health clinic is one of the walk-in models that we have. So he walked in and got a same-day appointment. I had the pleasure of caring for Micah while I was covering that clinic. He'd seen Fenway on social media, and while he wasn't sure what to expect, he knew that he needed care. He told us he was looking for gender-affirming hormones and he was looking to start on PrEP. Micah doesn't have a car. He juggles 2 jobs and now is a new grad student. He doesn't have time to call a clinic, wait on the line, potentially have the call dropped, and then be told that the next appointment slot is 2 months down or even 2 weeks away. But he walked in and he got care and he left feeling like he had a connection to us here at Fenway. Micah is the future of healthcare. And we're going to make systems that are built to ensure that people like Micah, who need to access us in the way that he needs to access us, can. But Fenway Without Walls isn't just about telehealth and walk-in access and caring for young folks. It's also about those we risk leaving behind. A few months ago, I was on the outreach van near our Green Street site, bringing harm reduction materials to one of the encampment sites under one of our local bridges. One of the first people I met there had his back to me. He was sitting in a wheelchair and he was dozing in and out of sleep. He was still wearing the same scrubs from the ER visit he had a week ago. We'll call him George. I introduced myself as a doc and said I had some wound care materials with me. Was there anything he needed? I could answer any questions he had. And conversations, as are usually the case with me, end up turning around to being about PrEP or HIV prevention or something of that sort. And so we get to talking and George starts sharing some of his story with me and tells me that he used to be on PrEP, that he was on PrEP for several years actually, and had tried to stay on PrEP, but had missed several follow-up appointments, and eventually his refills were no longer being refilled and he had kind of fallen out of care. Then life happened, right? He lost his housing, he began using again, he lost his insurance, he got his insurance, he lost it again. But finally, George made it back into our Green Street clinic and got tested for HIV and was about to get ready to be on PrEP again. But at that point, it was too late, and George had tested positive for HIV. We got him on meds the next day. But staying engaged in care is nearly impossible for George. George doesn't have a phone. He doesn't have family. He lives under a bridge right now. Our system, and in our record system, it said that George had been lost to care. But George wasn't lost. He was a mile away from our clinic. He was in a wheelchair under a bridge, still taking his pills that we had prescribed him. To be homeless in America is one of the most isolating and terrifying things a person can experience. And I know, because I grew up homeless with my mom and my 2 siblings. That was our entire childhood. And it's why I do this care. It's why we need a clinic without walls. So what will our North Star be? Our North Star is going to be ensuring that this clinic without walls doesn't mean we lose what makes Fenway special, but instead extending what it is that makes Fenway special. So that means extending our reach, that means extending our compassion, but it also means extending our impact. Because we will always be a home for world-class, in-person LGBTQIA+ healthcare that's affirming. But now moving forward, we also need to be a home for the patient who can't take time off from work to access a medical appointment, and for the person who lives 60 miles away in Western Mass, and for the person who's sleeping in a homeless shelter tonight, and for the person who has never felt safe in a healthcare setting before until now. I'm going to stop there, but I want to end with just saying how incredibly fortunate and grateful I feel to be a part of this team here at Fenway. Because the work we are doing is incredible, and it is life-changing and life-saving work. So thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight to share with you some of these thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Will. And thank you for sharing your story with us. The next speaker is another brilliant mind and deeply compassionate soul on our leadership team. With deep expertise in public health, law, and research ethics, she leads groundbreaking work to ensure that healthcare and research are inclusive, ethical, and equity-driven, Please join me in warmly welcoming Amy Benarrier, our Executive Director of the Fenway Institute.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Benarrier, the Executive Director of the Fenway Institute, affectionately known as TFI, and I am delighted to be with you here tonight. TFI is a national leader in LGBTQIA+ health research, education, and policy. Our work is grounded in the needs and lived experiences of the communities that Fenway serves. We don't just study problems, we are striving to co-create solutions and translate research into care, policy, and practice. It's our goal to serve as a bridge between knowledge and action, so our research doesn't just sit on a shelf. It directly informs care delivery and service innovation at Fenway and far beyond. At Fenway Health, we're working to be a provider of choice, an employer of choice, and a sustainable institution. With our legacy of community collaboration and clinical integration, TFI is uniquely positioned to help us get there. Being a provider of choice means delivering bold, evidence-based, personalized care to patients of all walks of life and to those that need it most. To serve our communities effectively, care has to be grounded in evidence, informed by lived experience, and responsive to emerging needs. TFI is not just an engine for innovation, it's a tool for accountability and excellence. We collect and analyze data that reflects the realities of the people we serve, not just disease patterns, but the social determinants that impact health and our lives. We use this data to drive real-time change, so research on barriers to PrEP or gender-affirming care becomes clinical workflow improvements, translating research into affirming and effective care. Our educational efforts extend that impact. We're proud to be nationally recognized for training providers in LGBTQIA+ culturally responsive care. Through continuing ed, e-learning, and technical assistance, we're positioned to help Fenway staff grow professionally and keep delivering on our promises. Part of becoming an employer of choice means cultivating spaces for staff to teach, learn, and lead. TFI plays a vital role in this, sharing research, best practices, and expertise. We are available to help staff connect their roles to a larger purpose and become knowledge leaders in their own right. Our education programs can give clinicians the tools to offer culturally responsive, affirming care, helping providers everywhere meet the real needs of the LGBTQIA+ people and people living with HIV. This culture of learning builds more than skill. It builds pride, confidence, and a shared commitment to excellence. And finally, financial sustainability, something that is constantly on my mind given the volatile funding environment for research and grants. Through strategic grant writing, diverse funding streams, and partnerships and advocacy, we are working hard to secure resources to fuel innovation and core programming. Our policy team is advocating tirelessly for evidence-informed structural change, pushing for funding models and reimbursement systems that recognize and support LGBTQIA+ research, care, and community health. At Fenway Health, research strengthens care, education builds workforce power, and our policy and advocacy shifts the system. Together, we're building a future where everyone gets the care they need, staff thrive, and equity drives sustainability. This is how TFI is going to ensure that Fenway Health can fulfill its vision, to be a place where those of all walks of life can get the care they need in a way that's right for them, where staff are proud to work, and where equity and sustainability go hand in hand. I am excited to work towards this vision with the incredible TFI team, with our brilliant faculty, and Fenway Health staff, all of our patients, partners, and supporters. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much, Amy. It is a pleasure to introduce our next speaker. He has proudly served the 9th Suffolk District, which includes Boston South End, Roxbury, Back Bay, Dorchester, and Newmarket since June 7th of 2023. He combines decades of leadership in business, community advocacy, and public service with a heartfelt commitment to his constituents. A lifelong resident of the South End, educator, and affordable house champion, he works tirelessly to combat the opioid crisis, expand housing access, and protect reproductive justice and LGBTQIA+ rights. He is also a Fenway Health patient. Please join me in welcoming Representative John Moran.
Thanks very much, Regina. And I also have notes, and my legislative aides know me very well, so I have to write big notes and big font. But it's a pleasure to be here. This is about I think the second or third event I've been for Fenway Health this year, and I just adore the organization as a patient. And it was wonderful to hear about the plans, and I'm seeing it through the lens of a longtime patient. And it's great also to see some familiar faces, Adriana and others. And not to take away from this very sort of joyous occasion, but I did want to just acknowledge that we're living in very strange times. And I think the joy of summer and the music in the background is making me feel kind of cool, but I do think we need to acknowledge that the profound sadness and attacks on the LGBTQIA community from Washington are really kind of really putting us in a precarious position. But tonight, let's take solace in the fact that we live in a proudly diverse state with a deep history of advancing human rights. And as Pastor Jay Williams of the United Union Combined Church in the South End, where I live, said before last year's election, no matter what happens, we'll always have each other. And little did I know how important those words would be as we go through the day in, day out of the information coming from the man who occupies the White House. We do have each other, and that really is something we need to take into account. And amidst the hatred and vitriol coming from the White House, I'm also heartened about the fact that we have Fenway. We have Fenway Health. And tonight, we're here to talk about this great institution's future. But I do often think that future results are predicted by past history. So I asked my college intern, Noah, he's a freshman at University of Chicago. I call him the brains of the operation. I asked him to do some research on Fenway's history. He gave me some great facts that folks in this room probably know. But what I was most interested in is his overall impressions of the organization. So I asked him that, and his answer was the following. He said, quote, "I'm amazed at the forward-thinking nature and commitment to investing in the well-being of every community. Fenway Health truly exemplifies every one of the values that make Boston great." Well, no, I couldn't agree more. Smart kid. So indeed, Fenway is an organization that has stood the test of time as a healthcare pioneer, founded with the philosophy that healthcare is a right and not a privilege. Back in 1971, Fenway started as a community health center in a basement in the Fenway neighborhood. And then it became fully licensed in 78 with DPH, built new facilities in 1991, and where we stand today in 2009. Was it really that long ago? It felt like yesterday, but okay. So Fenway has continually built itself up and never backed down from tackling the major healthcare issues of the LGBTQ+ community, including HIV treatment and prevention, as we heard earlier. Undoubtedly, we have to contemplate this, saving thousands of lives over the decades. So we all have our unique Fenway stories, but I like to tell mine because, as Harry here and others that have lived through the last many years can tell you, that without Fenway, we have to think about the fact that we would have a lot less acceptance of the LGBTQIA+ community. So over a decade and a half ago, I was working at a company in the Back Bay, and across the street was Fenway Health in the South End. I was living in this corporate bubble, right? So closeted for sure, always fretting going to the visits of my doctors. One day I was encouraged to kind of go across the street and go into this side door. It kind of looked almost like, what was kind of almost not well marked that it was a health care clinic. But I met a doctor there who I've had since then, and a nursing team, and I realized I could be myself and not worry about being judged. I was cared for by some of the best doctors in the world, and that's a fact. And I got so comfortable, I really almost answered the question about my alcohol intake, that questionnaire that comes before. I think I almost answered it correctly 2 times or something like that. But in all seriousness, if you look back, and to many of my contemporaries as well, we were really so fortunate to have this sort of safe place to talk about our care, meet us where we are. And it made an absolute difference to me personally, and I'm sure many, many others. So then we say, all right, well, what does this past tell me about the future? Well, it tells me this. At Fenway Health is an organization that will keep getting back up when faced with challenges. We'll keep fighting for the LGBTQI plus community no matter what. And on the healthcare front, we'll outsmart, out-innovate, and certainly keep winning over any hatred coming from those who would like to divide us or treat us unequally. So, for those reasons, I'm incredibly optimistic about Fenway's future. And as a policymaker, I promise to continue to fight with you every step of the way. Last year's passage of the Parentage Act, us putting $1 million into, it's good timing with Representative Decker coming in here, $1 million into 2026 budget for gender-affirming healthcare. The passage of the SHIELD Act are just examples. In yesterday's SHIELD Act, the representative can tell you more about, but it is really us telling Washington, D.C. that we will keep up with you. Every obstacle you put in our way, Massachusetts stands up for the LGBTQ plus IA community, and we will continue to fight. So let's continue to partner together. And I hope some of you might come to testify next Tuesday, where I have an act regarding freedom of expression. We have book banning going on in the states, including targeting the LGBTQ plus IA community. We have a big hearing on Beacon Hill the 22nd at 1 p.m. And a lot of the organizations, hopefully Fenway will be there as well to speak out against book banning in the state. And I guess I'll leave it to you all to basically answer those questions when you get those questions on your questionnaire correctly. And I promise to do that in the future because we have the doctor here and it's without walls, so I can answer it. But I do want to say finally, which wasn't in my speech, that I do serve the Massachusetts area, and I do think that there are a lot of patients there that with this model will definitely benefit. So I'm very thrilled with the future. Love the vision, love the mission, love the strategy. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Representative Moran. Thank you for trusting us with your care and fighting for us and with us. Our last speaker of the evening also needs no introduction. More than 20 years ago, as a legislative aide to Representative Alice Wolf, she was a key advocate for marriage equality and helped our community defend the 2003 Massachusetts Supreme Court ruling legalizing marriage equality here in Massachusetts. Now she has served the 25th Middlesex District in Cambridge with deep commitment since 2013. She brings lived experience, compassion, and fierce advocacy to every room she's in. As chair of the Joint Committee on Public Health, she leads efforts to expand behavioral health, maternal health access, LGBTQIA plus care, and equity in community care, including leading the recent effort to secure the first ever Affirming Healthcare Trust Fund in the state budget with a $1 million investment to support gender-affirming care for transgender and gender diverse people right here in Massachusetts. Her work is a powerful reminder of what public service can and should be. Please join me in warmly welcoming Representative Marjorie Decker. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really an honor to be asked to be here tonight with you. And Rep. Moran, I know I owe you a text back today, so it's good to see you. Is he still here? Oh, there you go. So I was not actually working as Alice Wolf as her aide during that epic, incredible fight for equality. I was a city councilor in Cambridge, and I got to do something even better. I got to be on the city council where we then planned to have the first marriage intentions given out, and we had an all-night party. Some of you may have even been there. And it just went to the morning, and if you walked around Cambridge over the next 4 weeks or City Hall, the joy that just permeated, and I hold on to that tight because it's such a stark contrast to what we're walking around with today. But it was pure joy to walk by City Hall, walk by the clerk's office, and see people who were walking out who were also for the first time able to legalize their love and access the same legal and healthcare benefits and all the benefits that come with civil marriage. Prior to that, I grew up in Cambridge, and Alice was one of my mentors, Alice Wolf. And in Cambridge, I'm so lucky, and the lived experience that I bring is about this lens of what does equity mean. I grew up in public housing, first in my family to graduate from high school, go to college, and also grew up going to Lavender Alliance meetings in Cambridge. Not because anyone in my family was going, just going really as an ally and having so many friends in our community where this is what you do. You come together as community to figure out who needs support, who do we need to link arms with and lift up. And so I feel really fortunate and privileged to have been shaped by the community that I grew up in. And it's given me the tools to also know that we constantly have to ask who's being centered. Who's at the table? Who's not at the table? Who does this budget or policy or decision benefit? Who does it harm? Who do we need to check in with to get more of a perspective? Those are the values that have guided me and have really driven my advocacy. Starting with some of my conversations with Fenway or AIDS Action have been tense conversations over the years, because sometimes we have to fight with our own friends. When there was an initial sort of bailing on Youth on Fire, an organization that I have been fiercely protective of and supportive of. And so I just feel really honored to continue to now have a platform to be the chair of public health and to continue at a time in which our country is on fire. And our rights and our liberties and our ability to access healthcare, our ability to access thoughtful, accurate information about who we are, who our neighbors are, who we have the rights to be, to our identities, and to be in a place right now where, as a legislator, people are walking around anxious, stressful. And Ryan, my aide, and I were just talking about how the anxiety that people feel right now, and the position that we get to do in our work, and Ryan's also my chief of staff, but the work that we get to do to combat the fear and anxiety that people rightfully feel because this federal government is really trying to rip away people's singular identity and rights and access to care. So to be able to partner with Fenway has been really, really important. Dallas and I were texting back and forth just in the last hour as I was trying to get here. And we weren't even texting about this, we're texting about the work that we're still working on. Meeting with the Department of Public Health, organizing what are the updates with the first in the nation language that we secured that will allow, if we need to, it'll allow our providers to provide gender affirming care outside of hospital and healthcare systems who are under attack. But again, the if we need to is a question that we're still all working with in terms of understanding where we are in terms of how the law impacts us and how it will work itself out here. But I want you to know, so we have a meeting this week with my colleagues. I've also partnered with Rep. Sam Montano to also really do this incredible, important work, so I don't do it alone. And one of my closest friends who is living his best life right now in his district is Senator Julian Cyr. So we were also just texting. And not only one of my closest friends, but one of my fiercest partners, and we've chaired committees together over the years. I just want to let you know that our foot is on the pedal. We held a meeting a couple of weeks ago in Fenway. Again, thank you. And I've known Sean for 25, well, we're going to leave it at 25, Sean, for 25 years. But to have incredible partners like Jordina, like Dallas, like Sean, who I can rely on both as a thought partner as an advocate who can also do something that's also extraordinary in addition to sort of the advocacy, but also is providing me with real data about what's happening, what does the landscape look like, who's accessing care, who's not getting care, what are the concerns, what are the through lines that we need to be trying to prepare ahead of time for. And so the work that you do here is just, it's extraordinary. And we are at a time, I don't like being behind this, we're also at a time in which we really need to hold on tight to everything that Fenway Health offers because it's being ripped away from us around the country. And at the end of the day, just like Massachusetts will continue to show what good government looks like, we will continue to model good government is where people get elected through the democratic process to make sure we uplift and strengthen our communities and not harm our communities. And we ask those questions: who's being centered, who's being helped, who's being harmed. Fenway is going to be the beacon of what it means, what good healthcare means, what it means to have an institute of important research working with communities that are underrepresented and underserved. So while the rest of the country's on fire, we're going to keep pouring water around the community of Fenway Health and making sure that the work can continue here, because it needs to continue to model and show that in fact how effective it is and how important it is and how much everybody who accesses care here, my Boston accent, sorry, that it matters. Right? When you have a country that is really using every tool to try to destroy the normalcy of identity, and you are that place. You are that beacon of light, the beacon of hope, the place that really uplifts and honors what it means to honor the humanity of each and every one of us. So I think there are other things that I had written down here, but really, you've had a long night probably, but most importantly, I think what you just need to know is that I have been in this advocacy role with the community since I could advocate and use my voice as a high school student. I have been really honored to continue to make sure that that advocacy is shaped by good public policy so that our budget choices and our policy choices continue to center people for what they need us to be providing. We are going to continue that. We just did that again. We just talked about the SHIELD Act. I'm so proud. My second term, we worked really hard to finally make sure that we also provided we went through with the entire civil rights law that should have always been done, but public accommodations, making sure that not only are people protected in employment, but they also are protected in having the ability to go shop, eat, and to live their life in spaces and not be discriminated. And we will continue doing that, and we will continue doing that because Fenway is an important partner in both that advocacy and as a provider. So Jordina, thank you for all the work you do, and we are here to just keep partnering with you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Wow. So this brings an end to our event, but before we wrap up, we do have a few minutes if you all have questions in the room. Not sure that we can take questions from online, but happy to open it up if folks have questions in the room. Or reflections, or thoughts. While seeing and hearing none, I will wrap us up. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the leadership team and all of Fenway Health. We cannot do our work without each and every one of you and our community. We are stronger together. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. Have a good night.